Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor. Today, my guest is Kit Mars. He's the co-founder and CEO, president of Alaska Silver, formerly known as Western Alaska. I wanted to have Kit on today to ask him about this company because I consider it to be one of the more undervalued companies on my list among junior mining companies that I cover in my newsletter, Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. And I do believe that there's tremendous upside potential for this company, assuming a good drill result this summer. We're hoping the company has an aggressive drill program because it's had enormous success so far in a very limited amount of time. And if the company has the geology correctly understood, I think there's a great chance that we'll see a really nice reward for patient shareholders who have stuck with this company over the last couple of years. As I say, Kit is the co-founder of the company. He's had more than 25 years in this business as an exploration geologist. He also has quite a good business background and has also been involved in project financing over the years. He worked for major mining companies, Anaconda for one. I know, in fact, the project that Kit is working on now was one that he worked on a few years back, quite a few years back, I believe. If it's on Anaconda, it's the name I remember for quite a few years ago. Well, he has, as I say, he has a diverse set of skills, geologic and business skills that I think really make him the right person for this company to move it forward. It is, as I say, one of the companies that is so undervalued in my view. It's covered in my newsletter. It's water pump discovery. Well, it's a CRD project, silver, lead, zinc, has some gallium too, which I hope Kit will tell us about. But they've had a heck of a discovery up there, very, very rich, some of the richest ore that I've ever heard of among CRD deposits, something close to over 30 ounces of silver equivalent per ton. The company trades in Canada under the symbol WAM. You can buy it down here in the US under WAMFF. 64.4 million shares outstanding, and they're trading in the US around 50 cents in the US dollars. So giving a market cap of about $32 million. I should, as a means of disclosure, tell you, as I did, that this is a company that's recommended in my newsletter. I own it personally, and I'm being compensated for the cost of putting this interview together. So I want to welcome Kit. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Okay, well, thank you, Jay. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We saw you last in Toronto at PDAC,
Yeah.
And good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you. And I just happened to think that this is a story that needs to be told. You have, as I mentioned, I think it was 980 grams per ton silver equivalent, and that includes lead and zinc in there as well, I guess. And when you look at it that way, at $31 or $32 per ounce of gold, we're looking at something. In my view, it's probably close to $1,000 per ton rock, and I mean that's quite a number. How common are grades like that among CRD deposits? There may be some others, but they're not very common from what I understand.
Yeah, you're correct. Some of the best known one would be Santa Eulalia in northern Chihuahua, that Peter McGaw, who's a good friend and one of our long-term advisors, and really known as the world's expert in carbonate replacement deposits, did his PhD there. And that's really the type example. That's a very large deposit, 50 million tons, mined over 300 years by the Spanish, and produced about 1 billion ounces of silver. So that's the number one in the world. One probably second is the Tintic district, a little bit smaller in the 25 million ton, 30 million ton range. So the grades, these are always polymetallic deposits, unlike, say, a Mexican gold silver vein system, which don't usually have a lot of base metal. But carbonate replacement deposits do. They're associated with porphyry copper deposits. So they have varying amounts of copper, lead, zinc, and then silver and gold. And it's a function of the zoning the closer you are to the heat source, the porphyry, you have higher copper, higher gold,
Right.
and some silver. Water Pump Creek, or our flagship Illinois Creek, the past producing mine, it's not our focus right now, but that is the gold, silver, copper closer to the source. 8 kilometers away, our flagship deposit is Water Pump Creek, and that is the distal end, and that is principally silver, lead, and zinc. No copper, no gold. So that's the metal zoning of these systems, but
Mm-hmm.
they're usually very good grade. Peter McGaw says you need to have over, 200 grams silver to really classify and make his chart. So most of these deposits were discovered around Morenci, Bingham Canyon, and they're all mined out and gone now. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why they fell off the investor map for many, many years until South 32 purchased the Hermosa project south of where I am and talking to you from Tucson, and spent about $1 billion for cash. And that project is going into development right now
Uh-huh.
with the 3,000-foot vertical shaft. And
Wow.
that really put carbonate replacement deposits back on the map.
Right. So yeah, you have, I think, something like a 500,000 ounces of gold in your current resource there too. But that gold, the Illinois Creek deposit, 8 kilometers away, it's all part of the same system. But I guess higher up in the system, you're finding the lead, silver, lead, zinc, but it's all part of the same system, right?
Yeah, it's one big geologic system. It's really more lateral off to the northeast. That's
Mm-hmm.
very common. These carbonate replacements are usually very long in one dimension. So once the fluids start to find the carbonate rocks and they start creeping along, making mineralization, they can go for kilometers. And so that's the model. And that is really, once we get into one of our slides that show you the target area for this year, it's really based on the continuity in the third dimension that these deposits have.
Right. Yeah, so Illinois Creek, 8 kilometers away, and you have a little tiny, I mean, when I look at the slide, I think you're going to show me in a few minutes, there's a relatively small area that you have this almost 75 million silver equivalent ounces. It's a tiny little portion of that whole system. And so if I understand you correctly, Kit, you believe that what you have now, the resource that you have, there's another part of it that's fallen off. And if I'm right about this, I believe you might be able to talk about, about maybe show us some slides about what your targets are and what you're looking to do when you start your exploration program this summer, hopefully.
Yeah, and that's true. These have a lot of continuity.
Mhm.
There is some structure involved, so our job as geologists is to figure that out. That's what we'll do is move south across to whether it's a fault or a fold structure, and find the continuity of that. And these have great grade to them. The silver is phenomenal. Zinc is really a major component.
Uh-huh.
And in the zinc, these are higher temperature deposits, unlike the Mississippi Valley and Tennessee Valley, which are more low temperature sedimentary deposits. So we have in the zinc contains gallium, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
number one on the U.S. critical mineral list. Zinc is also on there, and that's something that we're looking into the potential future funding from grants, et cetera. There's a lot of different programs coming out from the Department of Defense, Energy, et cetera,
Hmm.
based on the U.S. need for critical minerals.
Right. All right. Well, if you have some slides, I think, Kit, if you want to go ahead and show us some that might help us to perceive the project that you're working on.
Okay, that's great. And you might have to adjust your screen sharing again, Jay. It looks like it went away from me. So when we redid. So while you're doing that, I'll just mention you mentioned our valuation. So my job as CEO, I guess, is always to say that yes, we're very undervalued. But I think one way, it's sort of a common yardstick. It's not a PEA or something like that, but And we'll look and see, okay, it looks like I can pull it up now.
Yeah, I've made the adjustment, Kit. I think you can get back on now, so sorry for that.
Okay.
All
And
right,
if
yeah.
so, we'll just start off right here. And what I'd like to do is walk you through just a few slides. Uh, we did April 25th, I think, have formally changed our name from Western Alaska Minerals, since we have a gold, silver, lead, zinc, and copper deposits. We finally decided our focus right now is on the high grade silver, and thus the name Alaska Silver. And that's over in the left there. The drill core is an example of our argentiferous galena. The silver is all contained in the lead galena mineral. It's so high grade that a lot of times it distorts the crystal structure, and there it's a nice sort of purplish color. So it's really beautiful, beautiful rock.
Yeah.
So I'll just go through a few slides. The next one is put together courtesy of Agentis Capital, Michael Gray, who's an analyst that follows us, known as really one of the best mining analysts in the business today. So he did this graph has two filters that he used. One looking at silver deposits that have to be larger than 60 million ounces of silver equivalent, of which we qualify for. And the second is grade. This filter is a minimum of 200 grams per ton for your cutoff. So what this does, it eliminates the larger sort of bulk tonnage, lower grade silver deposits. This is a focus on grade. So the blue graph is the tonnage. So it shows, or excuse me, not the tonnage, but the number of ounces. So we're at 75 million. Panuco, the Vizsla project in northern Mexico, of course, is very well advanced. They're at about 350 million ounces. So the other ones, some of the names are pretty well known: Blackrock at Tonopah and Dolly Varden, Kitsap Valley. The grade is shown by the black diamond there. So what the purpose of this is really to show the size, and also that we are the highest grade silver equivalent of any of these projects. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah.
The other thing your readers can take away when they have a chance to look at this, and that touches on valuation. Historically, one way to value silver deposits and other copper and gold also is what's the value of the metal in the ground. So common yardstick a few years back was a dollar per ounce of silver in the ground. The market has not been kind to most mining stocks up until just recently. So the second line there is the enterprise value of ounces in the ground. Based on our market cap, that's about 30 cents per ounce. Vizsla, which is in pre-feasibility, feasibility, a little farther advanced than we are, is $1.30 an ounce. So it gives you a range there from the old yardstick of $1. If we were able to expand our deposit and move the engineering along and get to the PEA pre-feasibility stage, this just shows that you can be awarded 3 to 4 times the value of the silver in the ground. So that's one way that I think point out our undervaluation.
Sure.
Moving along, this is you asked about other deposits. So I mentioned Santa Eulalia, which is on the far right, Tinnick in the center, and then our Illinois Creek, Water Pump Creek deposit on the left. The takeaway from this slide is all three of these maps are at the same scale. So it shows the two most famous deposits in the world. Tinnick is about 19.1 million tons. We are right now about 2.4 million tons. But we have a large scale. The deposit or the system is about 8 kilometers by 6 kilometers. A lot of room to drill. It's very underexplored. The drilling has all been focused on either Water Pump Creek in the northeast, or when the Illinois Creek mine was going in production back in the 90s. There's about 550 drill holes that is used for our 525,000 ounce gold resource, which is a combination of both indicated and inferred. So this gives you an idea of the scale. So takeaways here is scale, grade, And I'll see what the next one is. It moves in a little bit closer to give you an idea of the metal zoning. So I mentioned most of these deposits are associated with the porphyry copper. So the Illinois Creek gold mine is principally gold and copper,
Mhm.
very little lead zinc. As you move along the system, Warm Springs shown in the center was a great geologic success last year, a brand new discovery. Needs to be defined. We only have 7 drill holes in mineralization there all last year.
Mhm.
Moving up to the northeast towards Water Pump Creek, you see the zoning goes to silver, zinc, and lead, very little copper and almost no gold. So that's a
Mhm.
classic zoning for this kind of deposit.
Mhm. Yeah.
Our resource you touched on briefly, the 980 grams per ton silver equivalent. What makes these deposits special and really enhances the economics is the way uh, they're distributed. It's really sort of a blob of metal. You are
Mhm.
either in high grade sulfides or you're in white dolomite. It's a knife edge, which is great for mining, easy to know which way you are. You don't have to do underground sampling to figure out the cutoff. Makes it a little harder for drilling because you have to hit the sulfides, and that's really our job. These are drill intensive deposits. Do want to mention the mustard yellow color up in the upper left-hand corner. That is the original Anaconda discovery. It's oxide, still
Mhm.
very high-grade silver, but we do not include that in our resource because it's a different metallurgy. We would like to do some drilling there sometime in the future to get metallurgical samples. We don't have any yet. The metallurgy we've done is all on our sulfide. So
Mhm.
the inferred resource is right around 2.4 million tons.
Mhm.
980 grams silver equivalent. And the next 3 numbers there show that the actual silver grade is about 279 grams per ton. Like to point out that Greens Creek, operated by Hecla in Alaska, is the #1 silver producer in the US, and their grade is about 330 grams. So we're
Oh.
only about 10% under that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
However, our zinc and lead are just phenomenal, about 22% combined, over 11% zinc. So that's a
Yeah.
big number. Zinc is on the critical mineral list, and again, the
Exactly.
zinc
Mhm.
contains the gallium. So
Yeah.
the other
Kit,
takeaway
Kit,
from this
Kit,
is
let me just
this.
ask
Yeah,
you on
sure.
that initial resource that you're not counting in your resource. Do you have grades or any idea, what might be there? I mean, how many ounces? I mean, anything you can tell us about that?
Yeah, actually don't have the numbers off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but in our 43-101, we actually do declare an oxide resource.
Yeah.
So we do have one. It's not included in this slide, but again,
Sure.
because it's oxide versus sulfide, it's about 800,000 tons. So it's fairly significant.
Okay.
It could be an open pit. We just need to work on that a little
Yeah.
more later.
Okay. Fine. Very good.
This would be an underground mine. Lowest part of the sulfides here is about 300 meters. Because of this is a very dense deposit, a specific gravity of close to 4.
Wow.
So you mine a lot of tons very quickly.
Yeah.
So it would be an underground long hole stope kind of method of mining, mechanized, relatively inexpensive mining. So we need to work on that in the future.
Sure. To the exploration now, I see here this
Yeah,
slide that you're
this
showing us
is
now.
this is a, long section, shows the original discovery in the left, the red sulfides. And so the resource is shown right in the center. What our job and goal of this year 2025 is to now we've put together the 3-dimensional geology from all the past drilling and leapfrog and been spent quite a bit of time doing the modeling. We know that there is a structure that is either a fault or a fold that is right now cutting off the resource. We feel that shown from Peter McGaw's work that we should expect continuity of the mineralization. We just need to find it. Right now, we feel that it's down dropped a little deeper. We've drilled a couple holes in 2022 and 2024 that before we understood the model better, We didn't hit mineralization where we thought it was, so we ended those holes. And they're shown here in the brown, which is the overlying schist. We just need to get enough drilling to the south there and hopefully find the continuation of the sulfide. So
Mhm.
that's really the goal and purpose of our exploration coming up here this summer.
Mhm. So will you have to drill another hole that's deeper? Is that it? I see there's a vertical hole and then, you know, a
An
dip.
angle hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will start off on the south from one drill pad and do a fan of drill
Ah,
holes.
okay.
Most of them would be angles. It's easier to find the mineralization by cutting across the geology with an angle hole. Once you find it, then we shift to more vertical holes because that defines the resource a little bit better.
Sure. Hmm.
This goes back to the comment that I had that this is one big geologic system. And so this is a combination of satellite view, shows our airstrip right in the middle. And below is really a long section, a little hard to see, but the dark lines would be all the drill holes. And it just shows that all the drilling is either in the far west at Illinois Creek or the far northeast up at Water Pump Creek. A lot of room in between. Our last little slide we'll end with, we'll have a closer up view of the gold that's stacked there, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then on the right, the drill core is our sort of, we call it the rediscovery hole in 2021. And that was just a phenomenal high grade silver. That particular sample there is 1,500 grams silver, not silver equivalent,
Oh,
26.8% zinc and 47% lead.
my
So
goodness.
it's a really phenomenal rock when you get there.
Yeah.
So this sort of wrap up here, our growth catalyst for 2025 would really be the expansion drilling at Water Pump Creek. That's to test the Water Pump Creek South target. We know it's down there somewhere. We just need to drill enough holes to find it. And the goal here is we want to grow our resource from the 75 million ounces to 100, 120 million ounces of silver equivalent. And I feel that that is the economic threshold for an underground mine at this location. And that fits with some of the models. If you look at a Core or a Hecla, what they're working on today, and that size would give you a 10 or 12 year mine life and somewhere in the 8 to 10 million ounces a year production.
Hmm.
So our goal is to redefine and really work on the geologic model that will help with our drill targeting. If we have a large enough budget, I would like to drill a few holes at our Warm Springs discovery last year, but that's secondary to expanding the high grade resource. Do want to mention last year in 2024, the U.S. Geological Survey funded a geophysical airborne electromagnetic survey that was done by the state of Alaska, funded by the USGS, multi-million-dollar regional survey that was centered over our Illinois Creek, Water Pump Creek discovery. And that data was just made public about a few weeks ago.
Oh.
And we're currently going through that, and we hope that'll help with our drill targeting.
Hmm.
And then we're going to continue our metallurgical studies to understand the recovery. The sulfides are very good recovery of the silver, lead, and zinc. And we want to do some new work on Illinois Creek. And I would love to come out with a new resource for the Illinois Creek gold, because those numbers were done 6 years ago with $1,600 gold and $20 silver. So a lot of upside there. So I'll turn it back to you there. Oh, one
Yeah.
more. There's our finish ending slide. And so this isn't just pulled off the internet somewhere. We've had a local hire program with four of the Alaska Native villages that are right in our area, principally Caltag, Nulato, and Galena. So every year we bring out a group of tribal leaders from each of the villages to come out and actually visit our site, see what we do firsthand, and also to see their friends and neighbors from our local hire program, the jobs they're doing, the job training, and it's something we're very proud of. So I had a photo of when the mine was in production in 1997 that I showed to the group,
Oh,
and a gentleman from Caltech said, "Well, Kit,
uh-huh.
I actually worked out here in those days, and I worked in the gold room. Would you like to see my photo?" And I said, "Oh, sure." Well, this is his. So he's the in the right with the red hat. The mine closed in 1997 due to low gold prices and the fact that they ended up with more silver than gold due to their recovery techniques. Went into bankruptcy. The judge said no gold or silver sales till we settle with the creditors. You
Oh,
can't stop producing in a heap leach, and they just kept stacking up the bars in the gold room for about another 6 months, and there you have about 150,000 ounces of gold and about 600,000 ounces of silver.
wow. Yeah.
So
Uh,
today, that money that would be worth about 440 million.
yeah.
Why the mine closed is back in those days, it was worth about 38 million.
Yeah.
So times have changed, huh, Jay?
Well, times have changed, but one thing that doesn't change, Kit, is an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver, and an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. What is a dollar? And the dollar is losing its value so rapidly, and so it is a little bit of an illusion. We're seeing high prices for gold, $3,300 or whatever it is now. Silver has to catch up. Uh, but that's an illusion to a great extent because it's not that gold is changing, it's that the paper money is losing its value very rapidly. But I did have a couple of other questions regarding gallium. You mentioned it, Kit. Do you have any sense of the grades yet, or do you have to do a lot of work on that on gallium? And do you have a sense of whether or not this will be a meaningful economic valuation, or is it more of an issue of maybe getting the government, the regulatory people to speed things up? I just wonder, and also, have you, does it complicate the metallurgical story at all with gallium in it?
Yeah, good question. The answer to the first two are yes and yes. So we're doing metallurgy with ALS and Kamloops in BC. So we had a group of what are called composite samples. That's where you have multiple drill holes. And these are bulk samples. They're each composite is about 80, 90 kilos. So we took three of those that were representative, put them together and assayed those for gallium. And also did flotation concentration of the zinc to
Hmm.
see what a zinc concentrate would be. So we were very pleasantly surprised on two sides. Our first pass zinc concentrate, which most viewers wouldn't or wouldn't mean much to if unless they're a metallurgist, but we were at 52 to 59% zinc in the first pass concentrate.
Wow, wow.
Very, very good. And the gallium went along with the zinc and ranged as high as about 110 parts per million.
Hmm.
So you can get it there. That the second thing is the gallium is not an economic driver. The deposit is the economics are run by the silver, the zinc, and then the lead. What it does mean is from a critical mineral standpoint, once the U.S. Can get farther along with the science and technology is to figure out how to get the gallium out of the zinc. Right
Hmm.
now, the only known process are in China, and
Oh,
they will not tell anybody how to do it. So
no.
that is something that is the US's DoD is working on now. We think this will be very helpful from a permitting standpoint and also hopefully from getting some grant money to drill some metallurgical samples, and then we would turn those over to Missouri School of Technology and other people like that that are researching the gallium. So
I take it with regard to your gold deposit, then you're really not spending any money on that. You may do a reassessment based on higher prices, lower cutoffs or something like that. Is that a possibility? That you're
yeah,
not going to spend a lot of money on that because it's not a high priority issue now. But there could be some potential there longer term on the gold deposit. Do you
yeah,
believe?
I do want to say the gold, the resource there is 43-101 standards, but it's all
Mhm.
historical drilling. We have not drilled to expand that, so we know that it's the grade is open both to the west along strike and to the east. So yes, it certainly could be expanded. The margin, you touched on the value of per ton of rock at Water Pump Creek, and that's really the key and
Yeah,
where we spend our money.
sure.
So the margin at Water Pump Creek, if you have $800 or $900 a ton rock, and it costs you $200 a ton to mine it and process it, your margin is 300%.
Right.
That is where you make money in mining. You would have a very quick payback and very profitable. The gold is a great deposit. It's about a 1.4 grams gold equivalent, so it's high grade from a open pit standpoint. If we can get that up to closer to 1 million ounces, I think it would be a good standalone project.
Hmm.
But again, the margin is typical in a open pit gold.
Yeah.
It's if you're
Not
at $100 a ton and it costs you 50 or 60 to mine it, your margin is a lot lower.
right.
Um, and that's why what makes carbonate replacement deposits so beautiful is the grade.
Right. Right. Any possibility of higher grades at depth on that?
We know from the drilling it continues down. It's a subvertical structure, very
Hmm.
long, uh, a long strike, and so really the resource is only limited by the pit slope and
Yeah.
the economics of
Right.
the strip ratio, but it does continue down for known from drilling for several hundred meters
No.
deeper and no end in sight, but it needs to be higher grade to be underground. So right now it's limited by the strip ratio.
Sure. Of course. Well, understood. And that obviously you need to spend money on. You need to find more water pump mineralization. Need
Yeah.
to. You don't have to have that to make a profitable mine, but boy, if you can find it, I think investors are going to be very, very pleasantly surprised. One last question I think of, Kit, and that is your location and infrastructure. Um,
Yeah,
could you just talk to that for a minute?
sure. We are right now a fly-in, fly-out camp. We have a very large 4,400-foot airstrip that when we bring in a new drill rig, we use a C-130 Hercules 4-engine aircraft. So I do want to mention we own all our own equipment, 4 drill rigs on site, camp, everything else. When the gold mine was in production, gold doré, like you see in the photo I ended with, you just fly that out. What Water Pump Creek would be, it would produce a zinc concentrate and a lead concentrate. So we have spent a couple $100,000 in about 3 years to complete a PEA pre-feasibility level engineering study for an all-weather access route to the Yukon.
Hmm.
It's about 28 miles. It's not very long.
Hmm.
And that would take you to a deep water barge site on the Yukon River. Your concentrate would go out and your supplies would come in by that route.
I
And
see.
that is really what drive the positive economics is all-weather road,
Uh-huh.
barging supplies in at fairly low cost, and then barging concentrate out. And you can bring an ocean-going barge to that site on the Yukon because it's 1.5 miles wide and 40 feet deep. So it's
Yeah.
barge goes by about once every 7 to 10 days in the summer. That's
Oh,
that's the
okay.
that's the marine highway of Western Alaska.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, very good. Really want to thank you, Kit, for taking time to explain the story to us, and wish you all the best. And any idea when you might get started with your program this summer?
Yeah, we usually start drilling in mid June, so our target is mid to the end of June, depending on financing. We're working on elevating our OTC listing in the U.S. to the QX
That's
upper
good.
level market. It's just a little bit of paperwork, and we'll be doing that shortly. And then when we're done with that, we'll do a financing to fund the drilling program for this summer.
Excellent. Very good. Well, thanks again, Kit, and all the best to you and your team. And hope to catch up with you maybe with some really hot drill assays later this year, into the
That
fall,
would
perhaps. We look
that
forward to
would be
that.
great. So I
Yeah, that would be
appreciate
wonderful.
appreciate you asking me to come on your show there very
Oh,
much.
absolutely. And thank you so much, because I think this is a great story. And obviously, you're a seasoned veteran, I think, that has a good shot at making this thing work. So I'm really excited about it. All right, folks. Well, that is it for this week. Next week, I got James Turk, I believe, is going to come on with me to talk about the prospects of a digital currency backed by gold. I mean, James has some patents to do that very thing that 20, 30 years ago, before hardly anybody was thinking about digital gold or digital monetary system. So it should be very worth your time to tune in next week when we talk to James Turk. Until then, goodbye and God's blessings to you.